Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the show. I am Jeff Waldorf. I know, right? Weird pause at a strange time. But welcome to the show. Logically left. It's just one of those days. I think the heat's getting to my head. But we've got a ton of news. Speaking of things that are going to get to your head, the news cycle, absolutely insane as usual. So we're going to get through it. Whether or not there's an actual ceasefire uh, and between Iran, Israel, and the United States, what the hell is going on here? And how it is, if there is one, it is extremely fragile. And Trump had a bit of a meltdown earlier when it looked like that ceasefire was violated. Insanity. We also have, of course, the Supreme Court ruling on whether or not migrants can be sent to offshore torture black sites. That's pretty much what they are. Okay. Disastrous ruling on that. We have, of course, Un-DOGE'ing the government. Yes, the Trump administration is quietly rehiring a lot of the fired people and hiring new people, by the way, to kind of undo some of the damage caused by Elon Musk's purge of the government. Yeah, government workers. So I'm going to talk about that. We've got Texas, of course, trying to do the 10 Commandments, trying to put them into the schools, just in defiance of the Constitution and even previous court rulings. So it's just a lawless administration pretty much everywhere. White nationalism, Christian nationalism, etc. And then, of course, this is just a horrific story. We have a man who was apparently obsessed with cable news and immigrants doing a hate crime. So I'm going to talk about that, which happened in Virginia. So it's just an insane news cycle, as it is every single day. So we're going to get into it, as always. But before I do, please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Very important that you do so. Not only that, but of course, if you like what we do here, you can support independent progressive media by signing up, become a member, become a patron, patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. In fact, I do want to thank Bewildered for becoming a member as well on our Patreon page. So with that said, I guess let's start out with the ceasefire news, which apparently so far so good. Who knows anymore? Okay. Now, early on Tuesday, President Donald Trump melted down after his announced ceasefire agreement between Israel, the US, and Iran nearly fell apart. Okay, and it still might be on the razor's edge. Okay, currently the situation in the Middle East is rapidly evolving, or perhaps devolving. I'm not entirely sure which. Trump told reporters on Tuesday morning, quote, "You basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the F they're doing. Do you understand that?" First off, it was Israel that unilaterally attacked Iran. So, I mean, oh no, they were fighting. No, it was Israel launching attacks against their neighbors. Okay, but anyway, previously Trump had triumphantly announced that, oh, we got a ceasefire in effect. We got a ceasefire. Except no, not quite. Not exactly. Not long after Trump's ceasefire announcement, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was like, "Oh, no, we got a ceasefire. Yeah, it's great." And then it was like, "But, Iran, they've launched more missiles, so we're going to have to shoot back. Iran was like, oh, no, we didn't actually shoot any missiles at you. We want the ceasefire. But you know what? We're warning you. If you shoot missiles at us, we're going to shoot back. So both countries are like, we didn't do it. We didn't violate the ceasefire. You violated the ceasefire. Everybody's violating the ceasefire all the time. Now we have no choice but to shoot back. What is going on here? Again, insanity. Trump, of course, went on to rage against the cable news networks and even Israel for, I guess, embarrassing him. He said, I'm really unhappy if Israel is going out this morning because of the one rocket that didn't land that was shot perhaps by mistake. He added that as soon as he was done speaking to reporters, he planned to, quote, see if he could stop it. And then he spoke to Netanyahu on the phone, and less than a half hour later, he's like, victory, we have a ceasefire. Quote, Israel's not going to attack Iran. All planes will turn around and head home while doing a friendly plane wave to Iran. Nobody will be hurt. The ceasefire is in effect. This, by the way, was right after he was begging Israel publicly to not do any more bombing. I mean, it's insane. Look, Israel's not going to attack Iran. All planes will turn around. And then, Israel, do not drop those bombs. If you do, it's a major violation. Bring your pilots home now. And then signed it. He signed his Truth Social post. What? Why would you do that?
Truth Social.
I don't know. Total joke. But look, the big question here, and the most important question here, do we or do we not have a ceasefire? It seems like for now, hostility has ended, but Trump's posts have not exactly inspired any confidence here in whether or not that this will last. In fact, he wrote, I knew the time was now. The world and the Middle East are the real winners. Both nations will see tremendous love, peace, and prosperity in their futures. Yeah. Look, so here's the thing. Now he's saying that, the strikes that I ordered against Iran's nuclear facilities, which obliterated them, which actually, if you look at the satellite imagery, not exactly. Not exactly. No, but look, 3,000-pound bunker buster bombs. He used those. Turns out, probably didn't even hit the uranium stockpiles. Okay, you know why? Because ahead of time, Iran kind of expected this whole thing to happen, so they moved them elsewhere. But Trump's claiming, us getting involved, that brought Iran to the negotiating table because they didn't want to negotiate before. But wait a minute, Iran is not the one who started the conflict. It was Israel. Iran, I'm pretty sure that they did not want a conflict, did not want a war. In fact, look, even after everything that's happened, Iran's president's like, we do not plan on violating the ceasefire unless Israel does it first. Quote, this is President Masoud Pezeshkian. I'm sorry, I'm terrible with these names. He said in a statement, according to Now News, Iran will not violate the ceasefire unless the Zionist regime does. Tehran is ready for talks and to defend the rights of the Iranian people at the negotiation table. Okay, well, look, at the end of the day, it looks like to me, Iran is more interested in peace than Israel is because Israel keeps attacking their neighbors. And not only that, but they've been more willing to negotiate their nuclear program than anyone else. I mean, they've been allowing inspectors into their facilities. They've been trying to keep their uranium enrichment under what's needed for a weapon, for weapons grade, which is like 93%, I believe. And they've gotten it up to, 60? I mean, yes, and some of the reports are like, from the inspectors are like, well, they could if they really wanted to have a nuclear weapon within 1 to 3 years, to get, because of that uranium enrichment that they could do, that they have to do to get it to weapons grade. They could, but they actively have not been pursuing that, instead using the uranium to power their facilities, to do domestic energy, right? And that's what that is, either domestic energy or uh, scientific or medical research. Pretty much it. Okay. And it is important to remember, too, that Iran, not Israel, signed on to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. That's important. That is important. Israel didn't sign that. Israel got nuclear weapons. Iran does not. So there's that. Look, here's the thing, though. Okay. Thanks to Donald Trump shredding the nuclear deal, okay, that we had previously with Iran, okay, that, allowed even more inspectors and strict rules, Trump got rid of that. Okay. And now the strikes from Israel, Iran's considering, like, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't be part of the non-proliferation treaty. Maybe we should develop a nuclear weapon. Why? So that we could deter U.S. invasion. That's the point that we're at. Okay. Where, yes, they are legitimately afraid of Donald Trump launching an invasion into Iran. Yeah, don't go after their nuclear weapons program that doesn't exist. And so, like, well, hell with it. Might as well develop a nuclear weapon. Keep them out. Keep out the Israelis. Keep out the Americans. Mutually assured destruction. We're back to that. Disastrous. But understand that this is what happens when you put corrupt warmongers like Netanyahu, for example, in charge, and man babies like Trump. That's what happens when you put them in charge of these countries. And this is not to say that I love Iran. I do not like their government. I don't like fundamentalist religious right-wing governments. I'm opposed to them, right? But at the same time, I'm also more opposed to getting us involved in dumb regime change wars. Okay, I actually do want a lasting peace. I do. Okay, but it is hard to imagine a lasting peace happening when these two countries, Israel and the United States, are being led by bloodthirsty morons. I just hope that at the end of the day, cooler heads prevail. I mean, it feels like Iran has been, like, very measured, even in their responses, their bombings of the area of U.S. bases in Qatar, right? Even then, their responses have been, yes, retaliatory, of course, but also very much measured, as opposed to what Israel's doing and what the Trump administration has been doing, which doesn't seem measured at all. So, that said, I do hope that these, the ceasefire, all this stuff sticks, and that we get some sort of negotiation, some sort of deal that, yes, does prevent nuclear proliferation. I think that's a terrible thing. It's a terrible idea. I don't think anybody should have nuclear weapons. But, I hope all of this leads to something positive, even though I'm expecting it not to. Okay, move on. Let's get to domestic news here. By the way, Jedi Protector says, look what happened when we did regime change in Iran last time. Fundamental Islam made it a hellscape for women. That is very, very true. Yes, maybe we shouldn't do that. Of course, you get the Christian nationalists that are like, other than it being Islam, maybe that's not so bad. Yikes. Just yikes. Okay. Anyway. In a win for torture enthusiasts around the world, the far-right extremist Supreme Court majority ruled that the Trump administration will be able to resume the disappearing of migrants to other countries without any additional due process. That's right. As the court cases play out. Now, the nation's highest court failed to explain their decision, but they said that the stay of the lower court judge's mandate would terminate should the administration ultimately lose an appeal on the merits. So, this appeal, of course, is going to take a very long time, years to complete all of this litigation, during which, of course, migrants will be now able to be sent to foreign torture gulags, even if they haven't committed any crimes. So, great. Great. Now, the lawsuit centered the case was originally filed by immigrants who were either deported to a third country without due process or are currently at risk of being removed to those countries. And by the way, now they will not be able to make their case as to why they shouldn't be sent to South Sudan or, El Salvador's Sika. Why? Like, now they can't make they can't go and argue against that. Now, expedited, you're gone. You're gone. And you might not be coming back. There's a very good chance that you won't come back. Now, before reaching the Supreme Court, the case had grown to encompass several other migrants, including 8 men convicted, yes, of violent crime, who were given notices of removal to South Sudan after U.S. District Judge Brian Murphy in federal court in Boston blocked that attempt to deport the group to South Sudan without giving them a sufficient chance to contest their removal. The group disembarked in Djibouti, where they remain in a military base, basically living in some pretty hot, uncomfortable shipping containers. So, yeah, and by the way, it's not exactly a safe area to be in. They're pretty close to Yemen, which they could have missile attacks from Yemen come in and hit them. So, yeah, not a great situation there, okay? Now, in the response to the ruling, the Supreme Court's liberal minority, so of course it's 6-3, had a dissent, okay, and they got together in this dissent that was penned ultimately by Sonia Sotomayor. So in her dissent, she accused her colleagues of basically rewarding lawlessness by backing Trump's latest emergency appeal, because everything's an emergency with Trump. Now, her opinion also took aim at the administration's attacks on the judicial system. Sotomayor wrote that the Trump administration had, quote, openly flouted 2 other court orders. And yet, the Supreme Court's like, well, we're going to let you do it anyway. Oh, okay. Great. Quote, even if the orders in question had been mistaken, the government had a duty to obey them until they were reversed by orderly and proper proceedings. The Trump administration was not doing that. No, they were openly flouting. They were sending people anyway. So it didn't matter. It didn't matter. They couldn't even wait for the Supreme Court to rubber stamp this thing. She said, that principle is the bedrock of the rule of law. The government's misconduct threatens it to its core. This is not the first time the court closes its eyes to non-compliance, nor, I fear, will it be the last. Yeah, well, I share that fear, and so should everyone who is paying attention. Each time this court rewards noncompliance with discretionary relief, it further erodes respect for courts and the rule of law. Now, the Trump administration has never had any respect for the courts or for rule of law, so it doesn't surprise me. Now, one of the issues she also pointed out is that the Supreme Court is not even giving an explanation, as I mentioned before, as to why they continue to grant Trump's emergency appeals. Not even giving any logic to it, okay? And again, everything for him is an emergency because that ends up getting him positive results. That's it, favorable results. He has won far more emergency appeals to the Supreme Court this year than he has lost. This order on Monday marked the 10th time the court has granted a request from Trump on the emergency docket. That's right. Again, everything is an emergency. It immediately gets fast-tracked to the court, and the court's like, a rubber stamp, go ahead. You can do whatever you want while this plays out. And yes, while it plays out in litigation, it is going to be quite some time, possibly years, before it's even adjudicated, to which already the damage will be done. Those migrants who are going to be sent to places like South Sudan and El Salvador may not come back they may end up being psychologically or physically tortured or even killed. Don't know. But the Trump administration doesn't care. That's the whole point. Okay. Now, Sotomayor's biggest critique, of course, is aimed at the notion that the Trump administration continues to skirt those lower court orders. In this case, she writes that the DHS had attempted to fly these 6 migrants from various countries to South Sudan with no notice, no or limited notice, despite the lower court saying those removals should be on hold. We can't do those. Quote, the government's assertion that these deportations could be reconciled with the injunction is wholly without merit. Given its conduct in these proceedings, the government's posture resembles that of the arsonist who calls 911 to report firefighters for violating a local noise ordinance. Wow. Yeah. Look, I mean, they are pretty much burning down the government, burning down the judiciary, destroying rule of law, dismantling the guardrails of our democracy in order to do an authoritarian fascist takeover. Pretty much what it is. Now, speaking of the merits of the case, though, getting back to that for a second, the Trump regime is arguing that they should be allowed to send migrants out to these often war-torn countries that have no protections in place to prevent torture and murder of detainees. In fact, the dissent noted that the court's action exposes thousands to the risk of torture or death. Quote, apparently, the court finds the idea that thousands will suffer violence in far-flung locales more palatable than the remote possibility that a district court exceeded its remedial powers when it ordered the government to provide notice and process to which the plaintiffs are constitutionally and statutorily entitled. Well, here's the thing. Welcome to authoritarianism, courtesy of the Heritage Foundation and Project 2025. This is a result of that. It is absolutely insane that we are now exporting prisoners to other countries. It's not even a deportation, okay? But the deportation is sending them to the countries of their origin. This isn't that. This is sending people who might be from Honduras or Guatemala or wherever. They're sending them to El Salvador, sending them to South Sudan, sending them to basically what is off-site, offshore gulags to be imprisoned, tortured, or even killed. Okay? And again, I'm pretty sure they seem to be pinpointing particular countries that have no issues, no qualms with torture, and that also have some pretty horrific prison conditions. I'm pretty sure that is by design. You cannot convince me otherwise. That this is being done on purpose. It's being done on purpose, I believe, to send a message. What message is that? Don't come here. Don't even try it. Don't even try the legal way. It doesn't matter if you're going to do things here legally. We're going to take those avenues away. We are shutting that down, as they have done with Venezuelan migrants, okay, with temporary protected status. Done that with Haitian migrants, okay, getting rid of that, getting rid of them. We're going to shut down all the legal ways, unless, except for one, I guess. What is that, by the way? Well, that is the pay Donald Trump $5 million to get a golden visa, and then you can come over, which incentivizes people who are rich, okay? And in that case, that shuts out the majority of migrants who come here to escape crushing poverty or war. And so who would buy this $5 million gold card visa? Probably somebody who wants to curry favor with Donald Trump, a foreign national from either Russia, perhaps, or Saudi Arabia. One of those people who actually have a lot of money wanting to buy and curry influence. That's who would take advantage of that. But the average person who's trying to escape poverty, death, or repression, political persecution, all of those types of people completely shut out Donald Trump wants nothing to do with you. Do not come. Do not come. That is his message. And that's what it is. And again, none of what they're doing, by the way, is about stopping criminal aliens. No, 65% of those who are sent to these overseas gulags, they don't even have criminal records here or abroad. And by the way, about 70 U.S. citizens have been accidentally sent to these other countries as well. So, I mean, yeah, no, try to convince me that it's a mistake. No, not going to work. I'm pretty sure that all of this was the plan all along. Yeah, human trafficking, indeed. Absolutely. Out of sight, out of our responsibility. Yeah. Exactly. All right. So let's move on to Un-DOGE'ing the government. Oh boy.
Whoopsie.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. It appears the Trump administration is scrambling to undo the self-inflicted DOGE damage to the federal workforce. Interesting. Now, CNN reports the Trump administration is quietly backtracking from the firings and voluntary retirements, okay, that were, part of the DOGE effort to slash the workforce. Now, this is coming as federal agencies are still implementing reduction in force plans to try to do spending cuts. So on the one hand, they're like, oh, yeah, no, we got to do reduction in force, everybody. We got to get rid of these people. And on the other hand, they're also like, oh, my God, we got rid of too many people. We need to hire some back. Makes no sense. Makes no sense at all. And look, to be fair, though, some of the rehiring, were instituted by the courts who said, hey, the firings of these workers, illegal. That said, not all of them have been, not all of the rehiring has been as a result of court rulings. Now, other moves to reinstate federal workers come as the Trump administration faces some pressure from lawmakers, industries, and the groups that they serve. Which basically means, what's that?
Whoopsie.
Oh, we messed up. We messed up big time. We gave the man baby, in this case, Elon Musk, too much power to fire people. And now he fired too many. And in some cases, illegally. So now we're going to have to rehire people to fix this mess. This absolute, debacle. This disaster. Okay. Now, one of the biggest problems here is, okay, yes, they're going to rehire people. They're going to hire new people. But some of the more experienced employees that I guess took the voluntary retirements or the so-called buyouts or whatever, just decided, I'm done with this. Okay. I'm going to retire. They have moved on. Either into retirement, or they just said, I'm going to go and look for another job. And they use their qualifications to get another job in the private sector. It didn't matter. What's going on is that they are not going back to these jobs, which means brain drain. You have a massive federal brain drain. Not good. That's going to have massive negative impacts. It already is. In fact, Elaine Camark, the director of the Center for Effective Public Management at the Brookings Institution, said, quote, of this, there are time bombs all over the place in the federal government because of this, because of DOGE. They have wreaked havoc across nearly every agency. And there are good examples of that, by the way. For example, earlier this month, after Voice of America called back dozens of Farsi speakers who have been on paid administrative leave since March. And they did so as a result of Israel and Iran trading missiles. So they came back, and then those same staffers at its Persian language service were among hundreds that were laid off again the following week. Yes, this is as the Trump administration gutted the network. So absolute chaos, absolute havoc. People being hired and then fired and then rehired and perhaps even fired again. It's madness. It's madness. Not only that, but at the National Weather Service, which lost more than 560 employees to layoffs and early retirement incentives earlier this year, is actually looking to hire about 125 new meteorologists and specialists for its forecast offices across the country. That is despite a federal hiring freeze. So they got rid of a bunch of people. They're like, oh, we got rid of too many. We're going to hire some back. Oops. Ridiculous.
Whoopsie.
Those hires, by the way, will have staff offices that had to cut back on their hours to stop staffing the overnight shift. Or stop staffing the overnight shift, I should say. Disaster. And this, by the way, is, look, hurricane season is here. That's going to be disaster too. And now, speaking of disaster, the Department of Health and Human Services, they ended up reinstating about 450 employees at the CDC who were fired as part of a massive reorganization back in April. That is including workers that were focused on HIV and childhood lead exposure, two things that seem to be very important. Okay, yeah, but apparently the administration, especially with Elon Musk and Doge at the helm, were like, oh, childhood lead exposure, don't care, HIV, whatever. Gotta get rid of them. Except now, oops, we had to bring some back. Yeah. In fact, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said back in May that the department had to reinstate 328 workers at the CDC's National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, focused on mine safety. Oh boy. Now, those employees combined represent about a third of the 2,400 workers whose jobs HHS had eliminated as part of its reduction in force plan. More than 200 employees had their firings rescinded at the CDC's National Center for HIV, Viral Hepatitis, STD, and Tuberculosis Prevention, along with 158 at the National Center for Environmental Health. An HHS spokesperson confirmed another 71 were brought back in the office of the director and 24 more at the Global Health Center. Look, still, the cuts that we've had were pretty devastating. They had wiped out the CDC's Childhood Lead Poisoning Prevention and Surveillance Branch, which was in the middle of helping Milwaukee address a lead exposure crisis in public schools. Great. Apparently, Trump's CDC was wanting to make lead exposure great again. Not only that, but asbestos too. Their newest regulations are looking at, let's bring asbestos back. Oh, yeah. Yeah, great idea. Now, the entire lead team ended up being rehired along with its parent group, the Division of Environmental Health Science and Practice, according to its newly reinstated director, Dr. Eric Svensson. Lucky they were even able to get some of those people back. Okay. Now, the FDA also ended up rehiring more than a dozen scientists at a food safety lab in Illinois. Now, they originally had plans to lay off a quarter of their staff at 58 facilities responsible for responding to bird flu, which had driven up the price of eggs. So, again, they had to rehire those people. But there are more examples, of course, but I think you get it by now. Okay. Disastrous cuts leading to, yes, we have to get some people back. Oops. And it shows you that they are being forced to undo some of the extremely unpopular Doge cuts. And of course, the reasons for that, of course, is for one, they didn't save any money. In fact, some of these cuts actually are going to cost us more money, especially in the long term. Uh, and not only that, but oh, look, we have broken essential services, which again, extremely unpopular. Look, when it comes to this, our country, we got played. Okay. No, we are not more efficient. The government is not more efficient. Actually, it's not spending less, it's spending more. It is a nightmare. What a disaster. Scott Laney, a National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health epidemiologist who had received notice that he was being placed on administrative leave, but then was called back because, of course, told CNN, quote, there's still a lot of chaos sort of throughout the federal workforce. Boy, that is putting it lightly, but yes. Max Steyer, CEO of the Partnership for Public Service, said the moves to eliminate and then reinstate many of the federal workers shows the mosaic of incompetence and a failure on the part of this administration to understand the critical value that the breadth of government expertise provides. Yeah. This is not about a single incident, it's about a pattern that has implications for our government's ability to meet not just the challenges of today, but the critical challenges of tomorrow, Steyer said. Now, here's what I think about all this. I think all this chaos was on purpose. Yes, this is Project 2025. Get rid of all the federal workers, or as many as you can, and then replace them with your cronies. Now, that said, yes, Project 2025, which is authoritarianism, which is fascism. But one thing that you have to remember, that you have to count on from fascists, is rank incompetence. Yes, and there is plenty of that. I mean, you just have to look at it. Yes, there is chaos. They wanted to sow chaos, but there's also massive incompetence. And what do I mean? Look, yes, they want to replace government workers with their cronies, and in some part, they're successful. But it also turns out that there's not as many of those people to fill up all the jobs that needed to be filled. Yeah. So there's not enough of these cronies to take the place of the fired workers, and certainly not enough qualified ones, if any of them are qualified. Okay. And the other thing that you have to remember too is that there's so much resistance against these cuts. They're extremely unpopular. They continue to be challenged by government workers, by the people, even by politicians, and so all of that resistance is having an effect. It is having an impact, but at the same time, look, the damage is already done. We've already had the brain drain. It's happened. Vital services have been hobbled. They've been hampered. And that's only going to reduce trust in the ability to for government to actually get things done, which again, that's part of the design, so they can privatize the rest of it. What they can't control directly, that's okay. We can just sell it off to private corporations. So you could, after all, look at this as a success on their part. Because even after all of the chaos and the dysfunction and add in the incompetence, you still realize that, all of this still ends up working in their favor. So there you go. Not good at all. Not good at all. All right, let's move on. Over the weekend, Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed a law requiring every public school classroom in the state to be forced to display the 10 Commandments. That's right. This is SB 10, which says that this religious text, and that's what it is, must be displayed in a conspicuous place in the form of a durable poster or a framed copy. The typeface must be legible to a person with the average vision from anywhere in the classroom and must be at least 16 inches wide and 20 inches tall. The focus of this bill, according to the co-sponsor, State Representative Kendi Noble, is to look at what is historically important to our nation, educationally and judicially. Wait, why is the 10 Commandments historically important and judicially important, educationally, all that to our country? It's not like it's not like the 10 Commandments was even written in the United States. And no, we do not base our laws off the 10 Commandments. Which, by the way, commandment number 1 is you should have no other God before me. Where's that in the Constitution? Nowhere. But the First Amendment of the Constitution, by the way, does say freedom of and from religion. So, there's that. Look, this is nothing more than Texas enforcing the Christian nationalist agenda. Okay? And of course, forcing kids to have to see this. Here's the thing, though. There's literally nothing preventing people, including children, from seeing the 10 Commandments outside of a school. I mean, all you have to do is go to a church. All right? You've heard of those, right? I mean, they exist apparently in Texas and in the South especially. They're everywhere. So the churches, I mean, that is a place where you can literally learn about your religion at nearly any time. Wow. Why then, if you have that, do you need to have your religion stuffed into your school? I'm just asking. Why do you need that? Oh, right. You don't. You don't. Now, during a hearing on the bill, of course, State Senator Nathan Johnson read a letter signed that by more than 160 Texas faith leaders who agreed that this is unnecessary. Not only is this unnecessary, but this actually hurts our religion. In fact, the letter said, "We believe this legislation is a misguided effort that undermines the faith and freedom that we cherish. Religious freedom involves respecting the rights of individuals, parents, and faith communities to make decisions about the teaching of sacred texts that inform our religious understandings and practices." The letter also says that the bills like this demean that freedom, which is true, and that the government has overstepped their authority by dictating, very important framing there, language, an official state-approved version of a religious text. So now they're referring specifically to a section of the bill that mandates exactly what translation of the 10 Commandments, because it was not written in English. I know, crazy, right? Yeah, 10 Commandments, not originally in English. Whoa. But anyway, yes, the state bill mandates a specific translation of the 10 Commandments that is to be hung on classroom walls, down to individual word choices, they say, that are not remotely universal or inclusive of all faith traditions. Which, again, if it involves all the different faith traditions, then you could make an argument that, hey, look, we're being inclusive, and this is just for educational purposes. Okay? Yes, comparative religion. Oh, look, all these different religions agree on these particular practices. Isn't that interesting? You were learning something today, kids. But no, that's not what this is about. This is about religious indoctrination. That's what it is. To a specific religion, which is, of course, Christianity. And only a specific brand or denomination of Christianity. But anyway, the leaders also recognize the 10 Commandments hold no religious meaning for thousands of Texans, which is true, and that it is not the place of government or the public schools to impose these religious instructions on them. Again, if you want to, there's nothing stopping you from going into a church. Yes, it's all right there. It's in a church. Go there. And that's free to go to. Now, here's another thing that really is important to point out. What Texas is doing is violating court orders. Yes, courts have already ruled against this. For example, last year in Louisiana, of all places, U.S. District Judge John W. DeGravel said the law is, quote, this is the Louisiana law, unconstitutional on its face. It's the same kind of law, 10 commandments in classrooms, okay? He said that this law is, quote, coercive to students, and for all practical purposes, they cannot opt out of viewing the 10 commandments when they are displayed in every single classroom. Every day of the year, every year of their education. Yes, because, by the way, and this is also important, you are compelled by law, unless you, of course, you are homeschooled, to attend school. So the government is literally saying you must be in school. And then you've got these state governments saying, well, since you have to be in school, we're just going to shove this 10 Commandments religious document in your face too. How is this not considered indoctrination? It absolutely is. That's the whole point. Okay. And by the way, they're doing this because so far you cannot compel or force people to go to church. I'm sure that the right would love to do that. But since they can't, they're trying to use the schools as the next best thing. Okay. Yes, we're going to force religion into our schools now. And since the kids are forced to be there, we're going to religiously indoctrinate them. No, can't do that. That law was so unconstitutional in Louisiana that even the ultra-conservative Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals was like, yeah, no, we can't. No, that's totally illegal. Okay, they upheld DeGravel's ruling. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They're doing it anyway. Okay, you got Texas, you got Alabama, you got Arkansas, you got Oklahoma. They're all either in the process of or have attempted to mandate this and are trying to bring it back again. So that's the reality of the situation here. Now, here's the thing. You know what schools need more than the 10 Commandments because they don't need the 10 Commandments? You know what they actually need? School supplies. Funding, support. That's it. You know that school supplies in most places, and by the way, in some of the states that I mentioned, education is not very good. They do not rank very well in education at all. But instead of trying to fix that, they're just trying to shove religion into the schools. Okay? And so that's what's going on here. So many teachers across the country have to pay out of pocket for school supplies, pencils, pens, paper, okay, folders, stuff like that, teaching materials, books. They have to buy it themselves because the school can't provide it because they don't have the money for it. And yet they're doing this, okay? And not only that, but you have places that can't even afford qualified teachers, okay? And yes, many cannot afford to be just teachers. Some of them have had to go and get second jobs, or some are like, I would love to be a teacher. My education is what I'm good at and what I want to do, but I can't afford to do it. On a teacher's salary? Oh, no. I can't afford to be a teacher, so I'm going to have to quit the profession or just not get into it after all, which of course leads to a shortage of qualified teachers. Not only that, but schools, guess what? They need to be able to help students with special needs. They can't. Not really. And look, that takes more resources that they do not have. Look, my point is that there are so many real and effective ways that these legislatures And these politicians can improve education. But the Ten Commandments is not one of them. And you see which they're choosing. Okay. But understand too, but it makes sense when you look at it this way, that the goal of these people is not to improve education. That is not their goal. Okay. This is to put Christian nationalism in front of children, to do indoctrination with the overall goal of not just teaching people religion. Okay. No, they want children to basically become docile, obedient workers who will reliably vote Republican. When you realize that that is the ultimate goal here, then their defiance of court orders makes a lot more sense. Okay. Last story here. They could pray for the books. That's right. That would be their answer too. All right. A Virginia man who was apparently obsessed with watching right-wing cable news pleaded guilty last week to hate crime charges. This is 58-year-old Douglas Wayne Cornett. Pleaded guilty to attempted murder and to discharging a firearm during a federal crime of violence. Now, the incident happened in February of 2024, which left two Latino men with gunshot wounds, according to a press release from the Department of Justice. Cornett reportedly followed a box truck driven by a victim with the initials OG, an adult Latino male, into the Sheetz gas station along Interstate 95 in Spotsylvania County, before asking the second victim, a friend of the first, how long OG had been present in the United States. Upon learning that OG had arrived within the last couple of years, Cornett drew a handgun and fired 6 rounds, striking OG 3 times and the man's friend once. According to the Department of Justice, court documents stated that Cornett had told a detective that he was angry. Now I'm pissed off about undocumented immigrants getting welfare funds, phones, and health insurance. So, wait, hold on. I got to note that other than WIC, which goes to women, infants, children, that's literally what it is for, undocumented immigrants are ineligible for federally funded welfare programs. Now, there are a few exceptions, okay? They do qualify for emergency Medicaid. They also qualify for primary and preventative health care at federally qualified health centers, and free or reduced school lunches, so feeding hungry kids, and short-term access to shelters and soup kitchens in emergency situations. So, basically, this man is very mad at things that aren't actually happening. And the stuff that is actually happening is just basically the basics for an undocumented person to be kept alive. The bare minimum amount of resources. He's angry at that. These are the so-called pro-life people. Okay? Not only that, but apparently this man had insane fantasies of flying around in an Apache helicopter and going to the border to fire on undocumented migrants traveling into the United States. This is a sick, sick man, literally having fantasies of committing crimes against humanity, mass murder, people. This is absolutely insane. I mean, What would drive a person to do this? Hatred? I think that's obvious. Racism? Yep. Perhaps he's even mentally imbalanced. I don't know about that part. But his housemates did say that, oh yeah, no, yeah, this guy Douglas, man, he would watch cable news all the time. Cable TV. So now he was particularly obsessed, according to them, with the coverage about illegal immigration at the southern border. So I'm pretty sure I know exactly which cable channels he liked to watch. Okay. Now, my question is, was the coverage, or was it the coverage of, that cable news did, that specifically Fox News, Newsmax, etc., what they would do on the border, which is nothing more than basically fear-mongering to racist morons. Is that what caused this, or was this man already racist and unhinged, and he just sought this out because he knew this is where he would get this so-called information that would justify his violent racism? I don't know. Why am I curious at the pathology of this man? I don't know. I mean, if he went looking for it, I think it's important to point out that there is plenty of it around. There's a lot of it around. Again, Fox News is the biggest cable news network. Okay, they're not some rinky-dink, tiny little, the niche channel. No, they are mainstream media. That is the mainstream media. You can't get more mainstream than Fox News, which is on everywhere, which is the biggest cable news channel in the entire nation. I mean, they reach millions and millions of homes, millions and millions of viewers every single day. They're mainstream. And yet these are the same people, oh, can you believe mainstream media is so liberal? Really? Are you freaking kidding me? Liberal mainstream media? No, not at all. So yes, there's plenty of it. It is everywhere. It is mainstream. And so this guy, if he was looking for it, it's real easy to find. Fox News, Newsmax. I mean, I remember all the different segments on Fox News about the immigrant caravans. There's another caravan. It's coming. Watch out. They're going to come into the United States. They're going to do it illegally across the border. What? And every time they would do it right next to an election, an important election, as to scare the crap out of people like that. Okay, this guy. I always get that wrong. But they're always doing that. Okay. And then, you could also look at like the pathology, getting back to that. Maybe he was radicalized by those networks. Since they are everywhere, this guy saw some of these news reports and we're like, oh my God, oh, they're undocumented immigrants are coming over to kill my family, take my job, and steal my welfare. Oh my God, I must do something about it. I don't know. If he was radicalized by those networks and their lies about undocumented immigrants, I think that's a pretty important thing to find out. I'm not entirely sure. Either way, though, this man's he's in some serious trouble. Okay, now, to be thankful, nobody was killed. No one was killed. Turns out he's a terrible shot. Yeah. But it still should have never happened in the first place. And no doubt, of course, this is the result of all this anti-immigrant sentiment that has fomented and spilled over on the right wing. We have a president right now that lied about immigration, lies about immigrants, and is currently in the midst of doing a massive crackdown. He once called them murderers and rapists. Okay, with no evidence, of course. I mean, Stephen Miller is just a straight up white supremacist. Okay, and look, this guy also president said that Haitians were eating the cats and the dogs. It was a huge thing during the election. But again, no evidence at all. And all the migrants, by the way, are violent. Really? Because this guy's not a migrant, and he's violent, a violent criminal. He said that their immigrants are poisoning the blood of the country. Okay. He's repeated the lies on like them taking the welfare. I mean, just the lies though over the last 8 years about immigrants have just become more and more outrageous. And you can see they're effective. This man, he was obsessed with these lies. And it directed them to him to do violence against innocent people. They weren't doing anything wrong. They weren't doing anything wrong. Oh, you understand? They were here illegally. For one, you don't actually know that. You don't know if they were here illegally or not. And it shouldn't matter. I mean, they're criminals. Misdemeanor at most, being in the country without documentation. You know, not fitting of any kind of punishment, specifically not fitting of any violence against them. It's horrific. But again, the lies are effective. And this is his legacy. This is that legacy of the lies on immigration and the direct effect of Fox News and Newsmax and all these right-wing shows, right-wing blogs. By the way, at Fox News, they lie all the time. They were forced to pay a massive settlement to Dominion Voting Systems for lying to their audience about the 2020 election, which, again, one of their claims was they're bringing in undocumented immigrants to come and vote in our elections. They cannot vote. They're not allowed to. Non-citizens can't vote. And when they do, if they try, they get caught immediately and arrested and deported. All of that. So, once again, that's how immigration, their lies about immigration, I mean, they use it to, create a base, create an audience, galvanize people. And yes, some of them are absolutely going to be unhinged and violent. And that's what you have right here. Okay, they've been lying about immigrants. They lie about just about everything. But yes, they're lying about immigrants. They always have. And this is what those lies end up leading to. More hatred and violence. Okay. That's all I got for you today. All right. So before I head out, I do want to thank a new member, Jim Madigan, for signing up to support us on our YouTube channel. You can hit the join button below in order to become a YouTube member. VMan29397 with a series of very kind super chats. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much is it political suicide for the governor of Puerto Rico to sell out the migrant Dominicans to ICE when locals supported expanded protections for migrants by 86%? Well, I mean, how much is it political suicide? Well, I guess it would depend on what they're getting back in return. So, I mean, it seems like, hey, if you want to get elected, then you might want to support those people. But at the same time, maybe they're not counting on it. Maybe they're counting on, I don't know, being appointed to something by the racists or whatever. I don't know. So I can't really put a number value on that. But it is a good question. Certainly, when it comes to the voters, yeah, it would absolutely, you would think that it would actually hurt you. But then again, in these days where misinformation is often, and disinformation is presented as factual information, maybe they'll figure out a way to lie about it and lie about this, this support or whatever, and be able to win re-election anyway. I don't know. Also, on the bright side of today, with the heat index of 105 in NYC, most of the older Cuomo supporters expected to vote today. They may not turn out. May was out. I don't know. I don't know. Most of the Mamdani voters voted early and are younger and are more motivated and likely to suck up the heat in order to vote for Zohran Mamdani. Let's go NYC. Yeah, I really do hope that New Yorkers don't rate Cuomo. Okay, don't rate Cuomo. I'm not even asking for a Mamdani win, even though that would be fantastic. Just don't rate Cuomo. Okay, don't let that guy, a serial sex pest, win in New York City and become mayor again. And that would be just absolutely horrific. And yet, for some reason, my expectations are low. I mean, a poll that tripped me out was like, oh, women are actually ranking Cuomo higher than Mamdani. And it's like, what are you talking about? What? He's a sex pest. What are you doing? What are you doing? And that is, for some reason, white men are actually going more for Mamdani, a young socialist Muslim candidate. Okay, more so than Cuomo. I mean, it's really bizarre stuff coming out, and at least in that poll. So, but anyway, that's going on right now. I do hope that Mamdani wins, but at the very least, though, I hope that they don't rank Cuomo because of the ranked choice voting. And so, I'll be happy if Cuomo loses, and ecstatic if Mamdani wins. So go Mamdani, here he comes. Let's hope that New York City, New York voters make the better choice. That's all I can say. Oh yes, during COVID. That's right, V-Man 29397. Yes. Ugh. Come on, New York City, do the right thing. Do the right thing. All right. Anyway, thank you for watching the show. I got to get out of here. Finish my editing. Tomorrow we'll be on this space. I'll be doing the show on this space, which is youtube.com/thisspacetv. So check that out. Again, I'll be doing my live stream there. I'll be back here on Thursday. And of course, the clips from tomorrow's show will be here as well, so you can catch up with that. The show will also be uploaded to Patreon, free for everybody, so you can listen to it, download it, whatever, if you want to watch the show or listen to the show that way. But anyway, that said, I'll be back here on Thursday. We'll see you then if you're not going over to this space. So check that out. Again, every Wednesday, I will stream on this space. And so check that out. All right, everybody, thank you. Love you all. Stay safe in the heat. Be hydrated. Make sure to hydrate and take care of yourself and stay out of the heat if possible. Love you all, and we'll see you tomorrow on the space, Thursday, back here. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, everybody.